bored?
I don't know.
Oh, hey.
Hey, we're live. There's no countdown thing here. We don't need no stinking countdown. Maybe. I don't know.
We're going. Let's do it.
Right on. All right. Well, hey, welcome to Movies Are Spiritual. Today we are talking about Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. And so anyway, oh, sorry. Something just popped up. Anyway.
Hinckley.
So anyway, what's that?
Ralph Hinckley.
Oh, that's me today.
Yeah, we're doing some Greatest American Hero throwback here.
You got it. Very good. Very good.
Nice.
All right. So anyway, you may notice something a little bit strange. There's only two of us here today. Unfortunately, Nathan got the flu. He got a new baby, so he's going to be sick a lot. I'm told. I don't know. But
yes,
probably.
Yeah, you're going to get
He's
sick.
just going to get sick. So anyway, yeah, he was just way too sick to jump on with us tonight, but he might be posting a comment or two because he's the theology nerd, and we are not.
We are not anyway.
In a podcast that's supposed to be very spiritual, we've lost our knowledge, but we're going to get through this. Not a problem. We can still make this work.
Yep.
So anyway, like I said, we're talking about Rebel Moon Part 2, and Drew, you want to give us kind of a quick run through of what the movie's about, what happens throughout. Try not to give too many spoilers. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be a few spoilers in here, so just bear with me. Basically, this picks up immediately after Part 1. There's no years gone by. This is pretty much immediately afterwards. The gang returned to Veld. They thought that they had killed Admiral Noble, and they have a little party to celebrate with some Irish dance music.
Loved it.
And I knew you would. And we kind of figure out what was going on with Noble at the end of the first movie. When we were wondering, is he dead? Where is he at? He's kind of in an astral plane, and he has the ability to basically regenerate. So he's going to cause some problems. The gang doesn't really know about it except for Cora. She knows. She says that they're going to come here anyway, regardless of whether or not the Admiral has been killed. They're not going to follow protocol. They are going to come here. They are going to want this grain, and they're going to wipe us all out. So the gang has to get together. They train the villagers how to fight and come up with a plan. And basically the entire last half of the movie is one big battle scene. And we'll discuss how that all plays out here.
We will. So, yeah. So what did you think about the, let's start with the first, say, quarter or third of the movie.
Okay.
All right. So they, obviously they ended with Part 1, and they just landed and they're riding in on their big mutant horses, into the, into Veld. And that's when they find out that the bad guys are coming in 5 days, and they need to get things ready. So what are you thinking here right now?
I like how they have, okay, so they find out that they're still coming because you have the traitor, and his name is blank. I'm blanking on his name right now,
Yep.
but he worked for the Imperium.
Yeah, I got this up here.
All right, while he's looking that up, I'll keep going.
Harris?
Yes. So he works for the Imperium, but he also has sympathy for these villagers. So he's trying to put on a show that, hey, we're getting your grain together, and there's been no resistance, and everything's going smoothly. And they're like, all right, well, we'll be there in 5 days, so have it ready. And he comes back, and he has the message is with Noble. So he comes back and tells everybody, hey, guess what? The crowd is all, they're all happy. We killed Noble and we did this, and everyone's happy. And he walks in and goes, yeah, I got to run on your parade. Noble's alive, and he's going to be here in 10 days. 5 days. And you can see the whole mood just goes down. But you have Titus there. And he's like, I love how he whips these guys into shape. I love how he's like, no, we're not running. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to fight.
He was a much better general in this movie than he was in Part 1. Part 1, he was drunk guy who just beat people up. And we've seen that in hundreds of movies. But that good general speech and everything like that. He really didn't show that in part one. He
No.
just looked like a brute. In this one, he kind of stepped up many times
Yeah.
as a general, and kind of gave the speech and everything. So that was a nice change for Titus's character.
Yes. So it was nice to see. Yeah, it was excellent to see him take charge and get that leadership, and basically just tell the villagers, hey, they're going to be here, and we're going to fight. And when they land, we're going to take them out. We're not showing any mercy. Like we're killing every single one that comes down here. And of course, then we get, and it's still part of the first act. They sit around and they start telling their backstories about why they have this fight against the Imperium. What happened to them to make them want to join this cause and lay down their lives for people that they don't know?
Mm-hmm.
So you get a lot more into character depth in this film.
Yeah, that was kind of cool because each person got their story. Usually in movies like this, you'll have some kind of like side panel where like character A and villager C get, walk over here and it's like, well, why are you here? Well, let me tell you this. And it kind of breaks into the backstory. And then you don't always get that for every single character. In this case, they were able to sit down. It was like, bringing the generals together, if you will, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, tell me why each of you are doing this. And you got to see everyone's backstory, whether it was when they were children or adults, about how Atticus and everyone ruined their lives. So they're
and
willing and able.
Yeah, it was whether or not they, my family was killed by these people. I was abandoned. I was, made to do something I didn't think was necessary, and just really get to the evil that the Imperium was. Because I didn't feel like you really got that in the first part, in part one. Mm-hmm. You knew they were the bad guys.
Yeah.
And they always said like, oh, they're going to come down here and take everything. But you never really saw how evil they were until they start sharing these backstories. And you're like, man, okay, they really are a bad group of people.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of nice. Yeah, that's it. They are all about destruction.
It's like Thanos with no reason, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and I mean, and that they took a good, I felt like, I don't know the exact time, but I would say a good 15 minutes of the film, maybe 20 minutes. So it wasn't just like, oh, I'm here because they killed my family. It was in depth. Yeah, everybody got about 5 minutes
where they were here and where they've come to.
Yeah. So that was interesting to see.
Now, I'm curious with Atticus. I only got a chance to watch this once. It just came out this past Friday. Did you catch what he is? How he was able to get shot and fall, and get crushed, and then they picked him up and put the blue stuff in him, pulled the red stuff out, which makes sense because you want the evil red stuff out and pull the blue stuff in.
Right.
That's good during baseball season.
I honestly did not.
Okay, good.
Really wasn't sure.
I was looking for it.
Yeah, I was too. He's in this chamber.
Yeah, very back to tankish.
Yeah.
Minus
pumping stuff into him and taking stuff out, and he pops up and he's got his scar that he got from the Scargiver, which he was very proud of.
Yeah.
And but they don't say whether or not he was like, is he a cyborg? Is he what exactly happened?
Yeah, because he was talking with Belisarius, and they on the astral plane or whatever. But
yeah,
I
don't know
who's dead, who's alive, what's going on. They really didn't explain any of this.
No.
I mean, did Belisarius show up towards the end of the movie, or is he dead?
I think he's dead.
Because I don't know if they were too clear about that.
He's not. He's on the astral plane. I know that. That's because that's the only way they talk to him. But we never actually saw him in physical form.
Yeah.
in the real world. So that part was a little confusing as to who are we dealing with here, and is this guy indestructible? It's like, is there a way to even kill Noble at this point? Because all they gotta do is plug him into a couple of tubes and he comes right back.
Yeah. Now, we'll talk about that when we get towards the end. Oh, hey, wait, Nathan, I believe, said something. That confession scene was an idea Zack Snyder had for a scene in Justice League 2 that he used since that film got scrapped. It was supposedly inspired by The Last Supper. All right, so which confession is he talking about?
I think he is at the when they're all sitting down
everyone's
sharing their
confessing. Oh,
backstories.
that makes sense. Okay, yeah. Okay.
So that was supposed to be the Justice League sitting there talking about, I came from Krypton and died, and my parents were murdered, and that's why I'm Batman, and I grew up with fish, and that's why I'm Aquaman.
I don't think you're getting any of the scenes correct. No one talked about bats or fish. But anyway, but yeah, that makes sense.
League, that's what would have happened.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so it sounds like maybe the whole Atticus, Belisarius, astral plane, whatever, is still kind of a mystery, which maybe answered in the future.
Well, there'll be a Rebel Moon 3. Is there going to be?
Yeah, it looks like, this could be like an ongoing story or something like that.
Or maybe even the director's cut.
Yeah, now that's another thing I was going to point out, because I was listening to a little bit of that Joe Rogan podcast again. He's like, the movie, the R-rated isn't just going to make it cruder. There's more story in there. So maybe we do find out a little bit more. It goes a little bit deeper into how Atticus can pop back up and where Belisarius is and everything like that. Nathan thinks that Belisarius is still alive, but he has no idea. So
it's all speculation.
Yeah,
I mean, really, that's all you can do. You really don't know.
Right. So, yeah. All right. So we'll get that answered later. So they've done their confessing each other. And then we get to what I like to call the Rocky IV portion of the movie, where it's just... I'm
sorry to cut you off, but real quick before we do, I think an important thing we need to talk about with the confession scene is to talk about Cora's confession about killing the princess.
Yeah, she didn't bring that up at that point.
Was it not at that point? When did she? Oh, she didn't bring that up at the supper.
No, she brought it up at the very end, and that's when Titus told her, Well, I don't know. Spoilers. We're going to get to that part, but
no, yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, because remember, he's like, and that's all you have to confess, and she's like, yeah. And he's like, are you sure?
Okay,
because he knew, obviously.
Yeah. All right, never mind. Doug, you continue. I'm gonna.
No worries. No, it's all good. Like I said, this is going to be a mess today because I'm trying to keep up with Nathan's notes here, and he's also texting with us, which is great, or chatting with us, making comments. If anyone else is watching, make comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Use this more. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, we're missing out on something. I mean, like I said, I saw it for the first time. Obviously, Saturdays when I got to watch it. Nathan pointed out that she did tell Gunnar that she of everything. I think that's what I'm talking about.
That was in part one.
No, when they show it all, though.
Yeah,
that was later in this movie. That was.
Oh, that was yes, that's right. Yeah, when so she did confess it to one person, but she didn't confess it to the entire team until the end.
So they didn't show the flashback until the end.
Right.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Not quite sure.
Well,
anyway,
we'll get to it at some point. We'll talk.
But yeah, now we get into this was the weird part, maybe. Now, again, like I said, there's a different version coming out later this summer. Hopefully, it'll answer some of these questions or kind of bring things together. But now they have 5 days to go before Noble and everyone else shows up, and they have to prepare. So first thing they have to do is spend 18 hours out of the next 3 days chopping down wheat.
And they said it takes them like a month to do that or something.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we got 18 hours, so let's get going.
If it's like you got 3 days, they're doing like 18 hours a day, maybe, or something. But
Yeah.
it was just like, okay, oh, it took a month or two and shoved that down to 3 days. All right, you did it. Good job. Now we're going to spend the next 2 days teaching you how to fight many more people than you that are
Trained soldiers.
very well trained soldiers, and they outnumber us, and they have crappy versions of AT-ATs, and we're going to teach you how to do this. This just seemed a little bit, again, the same problem I had in part one, too invincible.
Mhm.
You know, because well, first off, I mentioned earlier, this is kind of the Rocky IV version, I like to call, or part of the movie, because there was a good, I mean, I didn't time it, but it felt like 10 minutes worth, if not more, of just of them. You know, it was beautiful music. It's got kind of got that Celtic Irish sound to it, and a lot of flutes and
Mhm.
heavy drums in some part. You know, it was amazing music, and it's just them slow motion cutting down stuff. Then
Yeah.
it felt like he wanted to tell more in this story, but ran out of time or wasn't able to tell that part of the story because it didn't fit in with the PG-13 version. You need to see the rated R version. This part just felt a little thrown together to me.
Mhm.
Like I said, it was beautiful. I love the music, but it just felt like that we need to blow some time. Let's chop down wheat for 10 minutes. And then, they did that slow motion part, kind of montage thing. And then they came back and Nemesis was asleep and the kids were messing with her. I don't think there was a word spoken in that entire scene. And then it goes right back into montage again. And
Yeah.
So I don't know how you felt about this, but personally, it was like, oh man, it felt like they were grasping for everything they could just to shove a few more minutes into the movie, because it wasn't the movie that he wanted to tell, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think about it?
I'm kind of with you. I think that's during that scene, I think that's the kind of a part where it would have been very easy to zone out. You know, like not necessarily lose interest, but just like you kind of zone it out. You might miss a few things if anything was said. Because watching it, it's like, okay, farming, 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 farming. Okay, farming. You're right. The music was great, but it was almost one of those dull times. Like that is where I would have gone up and gone to the bathroom if this was in the theater, and I know that it's important, but I think, you would think that maybe they could cut some of that out and maybe that's where you could get on with the rest of it. Maybe show some more training of fighting with weapons, which they did do, but we could have used maybe more of
Well,
that.
it was like 4 shots. It's like, all right, do this. Good job. All right.
Yeah.
Now we got to do this. Oh, yep. You can do that. Okay. She's got a bazooka. Okay. That works.
Boom.
All right. You're ready.
Let's go get the ship out.
And it was
quick.
like, what?
Yeah. And then they went and got her ship and they pulled the ship out and it worked. And I think they could have expanded on and cut back on.
Yeah,
the
they didn't do
part.
too much on that. But yeah, it just felt like, well, you mentioned it. Yeah, you mentioned the trader guy, Eris.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what was his name? And it's like, the only reason I know is because I got IMDb up. I don't even know if they said his name. The girl he was crushing on. Do you remember her name?
Nope.
Sam. I think the robot said it once.
Yeah.
In part
could have
one.
seen maybe some more of him.
Yeah, the robot showed up a couple times. But you can't have the robot in it too much because I'm guessing it costs a lot of money to have Anthony Hopkins talk.
But I was kind of expecting more from him in this one because he was a scarecrow in the first one, and I thought he was good with horns, and I thought he was going to do something else in this one, but he was just kind of there, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
he showed up at the one point.
Yeah.
which A, was kind of a cool scene. B, in the middle of a war, one robot jumps out. Never, there's 50 people there. It's like, huh? Everything stopped. Even the AT-AT stopped and was like, if a robot comes running out onto a field, something that's fairly common in
Yeah,
this
there's
world,
tons of them.
tons of them everywhere, and one comes running out with antlers, do you think an entire platoon of trained professional soldiers are going to be like, huh?
They would have shot it.
Even the dude driving the AT-AT, he's just like stops and takes his hands off. It's like, what is that? It's like, well, you obviously know it's a decommissioned robot. Shoot it and let's continue killing all the people.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it felt like we needed, and it was the perfect opportunity. You've got one movie to show 5 days of stuff. They spent a lot of time on slow motion weed chopping, or not weed, but wheat chopping. And then
not a lot
couple
on training.
On training. That was it. You could have shown some great training, have some, there wasn't a lot of interaction between people. I would love to see the Indian guy, Tarek. I don't know. I'm looking at it right here. A person like him could, as they're getting things ready, they're trying to get animals to help pull the wheat back. And, he's like, this is how you talk to animals, and show how his compassion to animals and beasts and things like that, kind of shows his strength. There's, just a handful of interactions. B, like you said, it would be nice to get Jimmy the robot a little bit more screen time.
I mean, he could have trained how to shoot weapons and stuff like that, because that's what he was programmed to do.
Yeah.
But instead of being a scarecrow, yeah. If their whole plan was not to give wheat to these people anyway, right?
Yeah.
So why'd you spend so much time gathering enough wheat to feed them? Just get some, and then work on the rest of it. Should have been training, I thought. That's why I didn't get, like, you're not going to give it to him anyway, so why are you wasting your time?
And two, that was a rough one for me too, because we're talking a starship which probably has thousands of people on there, if not more. They've got plenty of money and plenty of food on that thing. Do they really need the wheat from this small little village that looked like it had maybe 100 people if they're lucky? They can't harvest enough wheat to feed that entire starship for a year. Come on.
Right.
They probably have enough on there so the guys can, bake some bread for the next 3 or 4 weeks and then they're out again.
Unless that was just a way of showing dominance, that we can take what we want to take when we want to,
and then kill everyone. So why not just kill everyone and move on?
Why get your droids down there and have them farm it? Right?
What's that?
Well, they could have just killed everyone and then sent down your decommissioned droids and say, go farm our wheat.
Yeah, that's what Jimmy was doing at the beginning to begin with, wasn't he?
Yeah. So some of that stuff, just it doesn't all, I don't know, when you look at it that way. And, like, I don't know where we're at. So, like, when the bad guys finally do show up, and they're looking down on this planet and they've got like infrared sensors that shows everybody's hiding in this barn, and they've stacked wheat up against it, so we can't blow that up because it'll destroy the grain. Wouldn't Core know that they have those sensors on the ship that's like, hey, some of this stuff might not work because they can tell that, if we put everybody in this building, all they got to do is shoot it because they'll know that we're all there?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a weird. I'm not saying it was bad. I enjoyed the show.
Oh yeah, I did too. But
it was just, we've got 5 days to make this work to the end of the battle. It was just kind of clunky to me. It could have gone much smoother. They didn't spend any time talking about defense. You know, they showed them dig a couple holes. I mean, two, again, with Cora there, you know, they're not just going to show up on foot. You know, they're going to come in with, I mean, you saw them fly down. You can see the four, I don't even know, remember what they call them. I'm going to call them AT-ATs, the four crappy AT-ATs. You know, so you could see them come down. So they should have been prepared for that. You know, instead of digging one trench, then dig 10 of them. And as soon as one of those things steps in there, it falls, it breaks, and then it's stuck. And you're good to go. You know, do something like that. Show, because all they did was show that they could fight almost, you know, they had a couple small little traps here and there, but they fought this entire platoon head to head with, you know, 100 farmers, half of them which hid in the back of that one longhouse and did nothing the entire time while Nemesis was getting killed. They're all just standing there like, oh.
Yeah, watching her take on everybody who comes in the door.
Yeah. And, you know, when there were two people left and neither of them had weapons, hey, let's all jump in there and just kind of jump on them. I bet they can't shoot anyone because they don't have any guns on them. I mean, but yeah, everyone stood there. That farm, that little village let Nemesis die. I blame them and will blame them forever.
I mean, yeah, they didn't do anything. I mean, she had a pretty good fight scene.
She did.
But I mean, the fight scenes were actually really well done and they were entertaining. And so I can't really knock it from the visual aspect.
I mean, visual aspect, it was fun. Yeah.
But logistics didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, she did her job. So yes, you could say she sacrificed herself, but she was actually somewhat saved. Why are you covering that up?
Oh, I'm just moving it.
Oh,
I got to focus
blurry
again.
And stuff now. There you are.
Yeah.
You know, she was kind of saved at the end by that kid.
Yeah, the one that was,
you know, and yeah, she gave her life for the town, but it wasn't like she made a last second decision to throw her body in front of a knife or do anything like that. It was just,
yeah, it wasn't a sacrifice,
guys, and the last guy killed me, and now he's about to chop, you know, in me, and then here's a little kid with a pocket knife. There were 20 adults standing around with machetes.
Well, yeah, 10 minutes ago.
9-year-old Scotty, you go ahead. Yes, I'll stand over here and guard this window with my machete. I mean, just
couldn't have done that a few minutes ago. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's why. And two, I don't know if she needed to die. You know, I mean, you had your sacrifice last movie, and then you knew his sister was going to come back, but I didn't feel like you needed her to die. It was almost like, well, we got to have one sad moment. So, eeny, meeny, miny, Nemesis, sorry. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and write you out of this. Yeah. And it was just like, they let everyone else live.
I actually thought that we were going to have a Rogue One moment where every single hero was going to die by the end of this film. And I thought that's where we were going when she died. Because then you had the brother sister one, you know, where like, if we're going to die, we're going to go in and die together. And I thought, well, okay, these two are dead.
Right.
But, you know, they got through it. Yeah. So I thought we were going to kill everybody off.
Yeah. I feel bad. I thought Millis died, the kind of short-haired girl who had the face paint. I thought she died last movie.
You're surprised
all of a sudden she was there. It's like, oh, hey, you didn't die. Good for you. All right, let's move on. I just completely forgot about her. But yeah, that was another character where it's just like, this happened to me. This was bad. And it was like, I just wanted to see, I guess, maybe a little bit more. I know I'm being real picky, and it's just.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I wish, kind of part of me wishes that he had a 3-movie plan, you know, to kind of flesh some of that out a little
And
bit
he may
more.
have. And they're
Right.
just like, well, we'll give you enough for 2 and then you can move on. So he's like, all right, well, I got to finish this story at least so I can move
So
on. So maybe he shoved everything down into 2. I haven't heard one way.
I
Excuse me,
haven't
where he
heard
had done
either. I
another.
was looking, and unless I'm looking in the wrong spot, new films were announced to be in development in April of 2024. So it looks like he is now going to plan more, but it's going to be a different story because this one's kind of been concluded.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
you're
I
kind
would
of
have liked
moving on
this
with,
one to have been more,
yeah. Yeah. I
to
want
get
this
more
one to
out
be
of it.
more and keep the crew together. You
Mhm.
needed, that martial art. I can't talk martial art aspect of it. That was kind of cool,
Yeah.
because again, it wasn't just bringing in a bunch of people who all do the same thing. It was, you had your general, you had your horse whisperer, if you will, or, who was very athletic. You had your soldier with the painted chick. You had your martial arts person, all different types of people. And it's
Mhm.
like, okay, now take that team and move on and continue on with the story. But it felt like it was like, we need at least one more death. So let's
Yeah.
pick someone. And it was like, oh, okay,
You picked the wrong one.
yes. I wouldn't kill any of them. I mean,
No. Yeah,
well,
but
Gunner died, which he had to. I totally get
yeah,
that.
and okay, so with him, I liked that little side mission that they had
Mhm.
where they're going to infiltrate the ship.
Yeah, that was good. I
That
enjoyed
was
that.
great.
Mhm.
So his death was a really, really good death. And I guess we could kind of get into what happened there. They
Yeah.
had core ship, and they're going to take it up and disguise themselves as pilots. Call in and say, "Hey, we're damaged. We need to land and be taken into their sick bay." And when they're brought in, they basically wipe everybody out, and they're going to blow up the ship from the inside. And it was neat to see Gunnar. I think they always called him Gunnar in the movie. As a guy, I thought it was Gunnar, but
Oh, they kept calling him Gunnar.
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 So it could just be the accent.
Got the accent. Yeah.
So and here's a guy who wasn't really, he wasn't a fighter. He was a farmer.
Yeah. He actually, kind of went behind
And
people's back there at the beginning. He was the one who sold wheat to the resistance, which made all of this happen.
Right.
So, he was, technically, and he understood this, and, he grew throughout both movies, which was cool. But, he was the one that decided that, or he was the one that started everything.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is happening because of him.
Right.
And so the fact that he changed throughout the movie and then ended up giving his life at the end, you kind of, I figured that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Not being the psychic here or anything, but that felt like it needed to happen. It's great that he's changing his life around. He's doing this. He's fallen in love, but this is his fault, and he needs to make up for it, and sacrificing himself, giving his life so Cora can move on. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
it was a great
that
sequence.
death, was fine.
Of
So
him. It was kind of a, I don't know if the word's brutal death, but it's definitely not the way that I would want to go.
bleeding out.
Well, he's bleeding out, and then he gets kicked off of the ship, and
yeah, he falls very awkwardly. It was like, I think that was him not supposing to fall, but actually falling, because he's just like, oh,
leave it in, keep rolling.
But so it wasn't like one of those dramatic and then he falls out of frame or anything. No, he's like tripping over himself and off of the ramp. And it was like, ow, God.
Yeah, it was like, oh wow. But he did put up a good fight, especially for someone who wasn't trained.
Yeah,
and you're taking on the top, admiral of this fleet. Which is another thing that was kind of weird. And I think I blinked or something for a second because I probably missed it. But when the battle starts, you know, uh, Noble is coming down onto the planet, and he's very arrogant and it's like, hey, all right, look, you're gonna get to try to kill me again, and I'm gonna do this and this, and of course, Cora's standing her ground, going, I'm gonna give you like one more opportunity to leave before I cut your head off, and the battle breaks out, and she was gonna call it off because she realized that, hey, you know what, we're kind of outnumbered, and if I go with them, they'll leave these people alone. But the villagers weren't having it, and they went ahead and started the fire. And
yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was really neat.
And I think he knew that there was no way they were gonna just.
No, they weren't gonna leave them alone.
They were gonna fly up with Cora and then shoot the village. He knew that was gonna happen.
They were in it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I missed how he got back up to the ship. I don't know how I missed it.
Well,
the battle was going, and I don't know what happened, but the next thing you know, it's like, wait, she infiltrates the ship, and he's standing on the bridge, and I'm like, now I'm sure that they showed it, and it's probably just me missing it.
She said we need to get to the ship, and the both of them started running, and then it showed some other battle stuff, but where she parked that ship.
No, I'm talking about how did Noble get back up on the ship?
Which ship?
The main ship. Was that? I'm so confused right now.
Oh, he went up after the battle started.
Okay, see, I missed.
He flew back
somehow. I missed him getting back up there, and I thought,
because he was in that explosion,
right?
And so he got cut up and everything. So he's like, finish this, and he got on a ship, and they went flying up.
Okay, see, I missed.
That's when Cora came in with her ship. She followed Noble in, and said, "We've got a injury." So Noble went on. They landed.
Okay. I guess I just missed him getting on to his ship. I don't know. Okay. I may have gotten up or something, and I came back, and then he's on the bridge, and I'm like, what did I teleport him up? How did he? But anyway.
Yeah. So again, I guess the end kind of mirrors what I had a problem with in the first movie was too invincible. Yeah. It wasn't dirty enough, meaning, kind of like the Three Amigos. When they're fighting
the villagers are all
they're doing all this different stuff to throw them off their game, and that's how they win.
Yeah.
They didn't do that here. They had a couple small little traps, but then towards the end, it was just them sitting there firing at each other. You got these farmers in overalls and shotguns shooting at trained professional soldiers in armor walking along a freaking tank, and they couldn't walk through a village of 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, all they really needed was one of those tanks and about 15 or 20 armed soldiers, and they should have walked through that village easily with that.
Yeah, especially with the weapons that those tanks had. Those rotating.
All they had to do was just go through and, all right, so the grain is stacked up about 3 feet. Put your guns at 3.5 feet. All right, most people are dead. Most of the buildings are falling apart. Let's walk in, finish up everyone else. Mm-hmm. And again, it's over. So I would have liked to see a little bit more Home Alone type traps or something like that. These guys come walking in, and all of a sudden they just get sucked down by the local worm farm that they activated or something. I don't know. There's just a lot more they should have done, because
using the strengths of the villagers.
Yeah.
Instead of making them these warriors that can take on an army. Instead, you're right. What do you do really well?
Mm-hmm.
Sewing. We can sew.
See, and it worked for them.
It did.
So that was a Three Amigos reference, by the way.
You can sew.
So Nathan says there's one more movie coming in this trilogy. So I guess it is a trilogy. They just filmed part 1 and 2 to start things off, to see if they had the legs to move on.
So who's going to be the big baddie in the next one?
Well, you still have Belisarius,
Yeah.
which I don't know where he is. And then apparently the princess that
Oh yeah, she's still
Cora
alive.
thought she killed wasn't killed,
Yeah.
which I was kind of expecting, because when they showed that scene, that was a weird gunshot. You
Mhm.
know, it like hit her and she's like, oh, and then went
And she kind of
all
like
kinds of weird stuff.
disappeared.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like, wait, what was that?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I figured she was coming back after that scene, but
That
um
definitely, I kind of felt like that story at that point wasn't finished yet either when they, because and I guess we can discuss that now. They show the flashback of how, she killed the princess, and they had basically, she ended up being betrayed. She was
yeah.
led to believe, like, her adopted father saying do it, and she did it. And as soon as she did, he places her under arrest for assassinating the princess.
Yep.
And that's why she's on the run. But then, of course, Titus says, well, the princess is not dead. Well, where is she?
Yeah, maybe you could have brought that up earlier.
Yeah, because we could have used her help, maybe.
So but yeah, throughout the movie, there weren't a lot of spiritual themes that popped up that that are unique. I mean, yes, you had your moments of sacrifice. Of course, your the family, whether it be blood or found, they came together as a family. They confessed
Yeah.
what brought them here, and brought them closer, and knowing that they would die for each other, to have that kind of kinship is
Hmm. And
definitely a spiritual.
yeah, and to
Mhm.
have that in such a short period of time, to be able
Mhm.
to put your trust in, be willing to one, to put your life down for people you didn't know, um, but it's for a better cause. I mean, every the cause was more important than anything that, for them. How am I
Right.
saying this right? You know what I mean? It's
I
it's
know.
like
Yeah.
not being selfish on that aspect of their life. Like, yeah, I'm willing to put down my life to benefit everybody else. And um, it was a really neat theme that all of them had come from all these different backgrounds, but with that one common denominator, was able to, you know, think of the entire galaxy, or,
Yeah.
it's more important.
Hmm. Nathan says, I thought it was more powerful this way, um, though, because Christianity, anyone can be forgiven, even from what she did. So it was a very spiritual way to tell that story. So yeah, her confessing there at the end is like, here's what I did. This was my biggest sin. Um, a lot of Christian aspects in that. And I'm assuming other religions as well. Nathan would be able to tell you which ones, but I can't. um, but yeah, forgiveness and confessing your sins, confessing your past faults, whether it be to God, to another religion, or just to your friends. And it's just like, you know what? I feel this is going to make me feel a little bit better if I let you guys know in the past I did this once or whatever. If it's something that you think can mess something up, that might be nice to do
That
in
would
real
be,
life. So
yeah. And that would be a very, very hard confession to make,
yeah, no
because
kidding.
if you're coming out with that and say, oh, hey, by the way, uh, you know, I assassinated the princess. This is why the universe is the way it is right now. I mean, you're almost expecting to be like, I mean, you have to expect the worst out of that.
Yeah.
Um, but with Titus saying, you know what, I already knew that, but your actions now are determining who you are, not what you did when you were almost. I mean, you're almost being forced to do that. That's what you were raised to do and told to do,
Mhm.
and you can change, and it's about who you are now, not about what you did then. And I know a lot of like that situation in real life. I know a lot of people who the way they live their life now is not the way they lived their life 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, they see mistakes they made or whatever, and finally realize that, you know, the way I was doing this wasn't right.
Well,
And if you're willing to admit that and say, well, I'm going to do this now, I mean, you should be able to be forgiven for some stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned in real life, I mean, you know, obviously murder is top notch, one of the worst, but
Yeah.
you know, if you go back 15 years ago, some of the worst acts that were happening were from a church, the Westboro Baptist Church, right?
Yeah.
And you know, they did all kinds of crazy stuff, which I'm not going to get into, but I disagree with. But the leader of that church, his daughter was a very strong member of that church for the longest time. And then finally it clicked with her, and she left the church. Now, I haven't researched recently. I don't know if hopefully she hasn't gone back or anything like that.
No.
But yeah, her dad, who started that place, I hate to say the word church, but yeah, she was able to walk away with it. She stood there with those awful signs at soldiers' funerals, and I can't believe things didn't get worse from what happened, because you know my brother was in Iraq, and if the worst happened and they showed up in Westville, Illinois with those signs, none of them would make it out of town alive. And I'm not saying that to sound, you know, like I'm Westville and everything. No, that's just the way that town is. They, you know, it is so tight knit and everything like that. They show up at a soldier's funeral there. No one is making it out of that town.
Right.
It's just, so it surprised me you didn't hear more about that. Because, but anyway, I'm getting off subject. The fact that she was able to walk away from that, and now she leads a normal life, and she doesn't show up at funerals and holding those signs and boycotting stuff. So, you know, that was, I'm not saying this is bad as murder, but you know, it's not good by any means.
No.
And she's come back from that. And you know what? Great, good for her. I'm happy for her. I hope she lives a great life. I'm not mad at her. I understand she was young. She was being manipulated by the people in her community as well as her father. So yeah, changing and now living for good. You know what? Good for you. Good for her. I can't remember her name, but you know, good for her.
Now I looked her up because I was reading about that one time, and I think when she got out, she actually started doing more work with like awareness of what that is, like what that church stood for, and how to, you know, if you're trying to look for a way out, here's some
that's not it
places to go. And yeah, that's not what you want to do. But if you're trying to get out of that, this is where you can go, and this is what you can do. And so she's really like trying to make amends for all the just awful, nasty stuff that those people did. It was horrible.
Yeah. But anyway, back on subject, because yeah, we could talk about that for hours. But anyway, trying to think. So yeah, the movie ends, and like we said, you find out the princess that Cora thought she killed is still alive, and the crew's getting back together. You know, it's like, all right, one more mission. Let's do this again, which I would love to have Nemesis there for, especially if they're going off planet into secret these bases they have to sneak onto. You'd probably want a ninja there. Just saying. But anyway, yeah. So they get together, and to make it interesting, Jimmy, it sounds like he's going to have a prominent part moving forward. Jimmy the robot, because now that he found out the princess is still alive, he now has a purpose.
Right.
So, and that's an interesting story they missed out on too, because you've got a robot here that is AI that is now starting to make its own decisions and change its mind from what it was programmed to be. So, you know, there's a good story there you can kind of tell. But
yeah,
maybe they'll talk about that more in part 3.
Yeah, I thought he was an interesting character. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him. He's kind of like a little storyteller. I always look at him like he's like a nanny droid. Just the way he talks, and he just seems so calm and polite.
Yeah.
And like very nurturing. So it's kind of hard to see that it was him that he could actually be a killer. So I thought
figured out how to pull things up.
I think it was interesting that the film brought up the rule of family and how you can't choose your parents. Some don't have a good reference point for what a healthy family looks like.
Very true.
That is very true.
I think I can speak for Nathan as well as Drew or myself. You know, luckily we had very strong parents, parents that were in our lives and things like that. And they were good people. They are good people. But yeah, if you don't have that family, if you don't have those parents that were there, a lot of kids adopted, things like that, it's nice to know that you can find your own family. You know, you don't have to, like, if you have a bad parent or a family member and, you know, you share the name, you know, it's like, oh, you're part of that family. You know what? I'm a part of a family that has this element in it. I don't have to be that. I don't choose to call them my family member, my best friend, blah, here. You know, we help with charities on the weekend. So now, you know, this is my family. So being able to, you can't choose your parents, but you can choose your family. We, of course, do choose our blood family, but, you know, Drew, I've known him for well over 20 years. One of my best friends in the world. I would die for him. He's family. Yeah. Same with Nathan. You know, known him for just a few years less than Drew, and same thing.
Yeah. I mean, Sean, my kids call you Uncle Doug, so that's how they know you. You're family.
So yeah, that's something good to kind of keep in mind, you know, when it comes to your best friends. Make sure you treat them like family, because, you know, someday something may come up and you might need somebody like that. So it's
exactly.
It is a good message when it comes to that. So.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate in my life to be surrounded with, you know, with the friends that I've had, and that even extends to my friends' parents. Because like growing up, you know, I had my mom and my dad, but the friends that I would go to their house, their parents treated me like I was one of theirs. You know, going to a baseball game or a football game or hanging out with them, and then they would make dinner and you get to sit down and have dinner with them. And so even then it was like, that's an extension of you know, a family. And I've even told some of them that before. It's like, you know, growing up, you were kind of like my second father. And I remember one day I had my friend Josh, my parents were gone for the day. I was going to go over to Josh's house. I just showed up, and of course he wasn't home. He was out at his cousin's house doing something. So I just went and sat down with his dad, and we watched Kerry Wood strike out 21 guys.
Nice. Great game.
And I'm not a Cub fan, but I sat there with him, and it's just the two of us watching a baseball game. And it's like, you know, and it didn't feel awkward at all that, you know, he was going to take him to an Illini football game once. It turned out Josh couldn't go. So he just called me up and said, hey, he can't go. Do you want to go? So the two of us went over and saw a football game. And I told him, like, you know, this is like, we're having like quality father-son time here, and I'm not even your son.
Not even related to you, blood related, but yeah.
But it was just surrounding myself with those people. So I always considered them, you know, like my family. They treated me like that. And I looked at them as, you know, somewhere that I could go if I needed something. And it's nice. It was nice to have. So, and we're lucky to be surrounded by that right now with the friends that we have right now.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we made it through the movie. That didn't go as bad as I thought it would.
I think we did all right.
Yeah. Nathan, we miss you. But
it's all good. Back,
yeah.
We need you.
Yeah. Drink some vitamin C and do all that stuff. So I guess to end it, Nathan is away. So Drew, recommend or not recommend?
I mean, sure. I mean, it was an entertaining film. It was fun to watch, and there's a lot of especially this one. Half the movie is the battle, by the
Yeah.
way. It's a 2-hour movie. The last half of it is really the battle. So it's just kind of neat. It does have some flaws, and there's a couple things that you wish that they could have done better or explained better. But overall, I mean, it's a nice to sit down for 2 hours, and I think you'd enjoy it. You'd be entertained with it. So yeah, I would recommend it. I'm looking forward to seeing another one. I'd like to see where this goes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I'm curious, or I recommend as well, pretty much the exact same thing Drew said. It's not a classic movie. It's not
No.
the most amazing thing you're ever going to see. It's just a fun 2 hour, and will I watch it again? Yeah, maybe someday down the road, but it's not going to be anytime soon. I got what I needed out of it for now. If it pops up again and I'm bored and there's nothing else to watch and I don't want to watch The Office or Ted Lasso for the 500th time, then yeah,
Maybe throw that on.
I'll toss it on.
Yeah.
But I don't want to discourage it too much, because remember, this is the Netflix cut. We've got the director's edition coming out later this summer. It sounded like each movie is close to 3 hours long.
Is there a director's cut? So wait, his director's cut is part 1 and 2?
I'm assuming.
Or is he just putting these two together and then adding more stuff?
That I don't know. That's a good question. We should probably look that up, or somebody else look that up and comment later on. So yeah, we both give it a recommend. We think you should check it out. But remember to be light on it, because yes, we've got the much more in-depth version coming later this summer. Nathan just popped it up there. It's 6 hours between part 1 and part 2.
So he's putting it. So it's basically going to be Justice
3 hours
League.
apiece. Yeah, sounds like, which is kind of Zack Snyder's thing. It's his thing now is, I'm the director cut guy. I'll give you this version for the movies, make the producers and everyone else happy, but then we'll make more money off this one because this is the better version. So
it'd be nice if he does with this one too, where he puts it in chapters, so you can like watch one chapter and go, I'm stopping here, I'll pick it up.
This is a good place to stop. Let's move on. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. Appreciate everyone who's watched. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe, because I know we've got small gathering of subscribers, but we're getting a lot more views than we do have subscribers. And if you just hit that subscribe button, you'll get alerted when new things come up. Doesn't cost you anything, but it definitely helps out the channel. So if you're watching this, just give it a quick click. If you like what we're doing, leave a comment. If you don't like what we're doing, I guess leave a comment. But no, I'm kidding. If you don't like what we're doing, tell us what you think would be cool, and we'll fix maybe play around with it. So
we're open to suggestions.
Yeah. So anyway, that's about it. Drew,
that's all I got. Yeah,
good job.
That's all I've got too. You too, man.
Anything get better, and we'll see you guys the next time.
Peace.